Good morning. Welcome to Cleave to Antiquity. My name is Pastor Ben, and today we're going to be talking again about atheism. But before we get started, let's go ahead and open up in prayer. Heavenly Father, God, I pray for any of the atheists watching this video, Lord. I pray that they turn to you. God, anybody that is struggling with depression, or if they're having mental health issues, Lord, I pray that they turn to you, lay all their issues at the foot of the cross. Lord, heal them in Jesus' holy name. Amen. So today we're going to be talking about the atheist worldview a little further and how that impacts mental health on average, and also some of the dangers of an increasingly secular society. I think we've all seen over the last 20 years that there has been an increase in rates of depression, an increase in rates of mental illness, an increase of just general insanity in the world. And I think that this is directly attributed to a rise in not only secularism, but a rise in atheistic thought that can affect your worldview. Now, I made 2 videos on this prior to this, and in the comments, often what the atheists that were watching the video would say is atheism isn't a worldview, and they would repeat that comment over and over and over again, showing me they didn't watch the video in the first place. So I'm going to define it right at the beginning again, so you understand. This is what we're talking about. We're not saying atheism in and of itself is a worldview, but your worldview is impacted by the presupposition of your atheistic belief. Or you could say lack of belief. It doesn't matter. It still impacts the way that you view the world. If there is nothing transcendent, then there are going to be issues with your worldview. If you want to look into this topic more, please watch the previous video. I break it down in detail. I don't want to spend too much time in that. This video, I'm mostly going to be just talking about the impact of atheistic thought on mental health and on society. So we can all generally see that, logically, being an atheist, if this is all there is, it's just, this is it here. There's nothing after this. We're stuck like this. Everything that I'm doing is just going to fade away when I die. Nothing has meaning. My life doesn't have value, or the value that I attribute to it is subjective. I'm just a tiny thing in the cosmos, and my life has no meaning whatsoever. Then yes, your life will seem pointless, and it's logical to assume that that's going to lead to higher rates of depression. However, let me be clear before I go any further. I am not mocking people who struggle with depression. I am not mocking people who struggle with suicide or depression. If you struggle with any of those things, I highly encourage you, go before the Lord in prayer, reach out to a specialist if you need to, if you need counseling, whatever the case may be, go and get help. I know sometimes it can seem like there's blinders, like this is all there is, like there's no way out. I can tell you that if you persevere through your depressive state, your life is going to be completely different in a year or 2 or 3. I've seen it many, many times. Walked people through those depressive states and their life has completely changed. My life is completely different than it was 5 years ago. So, your life can and will change, will get better if you allow it to. And I will be praying for you. So don't think that I'm mocking you. I do take that very seriously, and I have nothing but love for, people that are struggling with these issues. And even for the atheists that are watching this video, you might think that I'm attacking you. No, it's the worldview, it's the belief itself. That's what I'm focused on. You as individuals, I would give you the shirt off my back. So don't think that I hate you or anything like that. That's not the case. I just want to make that very clear. All right, so the effect that atheism, as a belief or lack thereof, affects society is demonstrable. I'm going to cite some studies here in just a moment. I'm going to read from them verbatim, the results of these studies, and then you can come up with your own conclusions from there. So the first citation that I'm going to be reading from will be a study from the American Journal of Psychology, and its title is Religious Affiliation and Suicide Attempt. Basically, they did a study not only on secular countries versus more religious countries, but on individuals as well. And in both instances, it was shown that the more religious countries had a lower suicide rate And even on the individual level, the more religious individuals had a lower suicide rate than the atheistic or agnostic individuals. Let me go ahead and I'll put this up on the screen as well. I'm going to read from the study. So this is the results of the study. Results: religiously unaffiliated subjects had significantly more lifetime suicide attempts, more first-degree relatives who committed suicide than subjects who endorsed a religious affiliation. Unaffiliated subjects were younger, less often married, less often had children, had less contact with family members. Furthermore, subjects with no religious affiliation perceived fewer reasons for living, particularly fewer moral objections to suicide in terms of clinical characteristics. Religiously unaffiliated subjects had more lifetime impulsivity, aggression, past substance abuse disorder. No differences in the level of subjective and objective depression, hopelessness, or stressful life events were found. So those were the results of the study that was conducted. So they had fewer reasons for living if they were an atheist, fewer moral objections to suicide. In terms of clinical characteristics, they had more lifetime impulsivity, aggression, past substance abuse disorder. They were less often married, less often had children, and had less contact with family members. So this study showed a direct correlation between the atheistic worldview, so how your worldview is affected by atheism, and rates of depression and rates of negative aspects of your life. Not being in contact with your family as much, less likely to be married, less likely to have kids. That just sounds like less likely to have a happy life, period. This is the result of an increase in secularism. There is no coincidence between this on an individualistic level and then this on a national level. If the atheist worldview affects your life to this degree, you can judge a worldview by its fruits. If it produces this in your life, why would you subscribe to it? Now, we can get into the intellectual discussion later on, and I'm more than happy to make many, many videos showing you why Christianity is the true path. And I will be doing that. But for now, that's not the topic of this video. The topic of this video is why atheism is bad for you. Atheism is bad for you not only for your mental health, it's bad for your success in life, period. And the reason for that is you're nihilistic. There is nothing after this. You don't have any reason to live except for impulse to impulse. You're living from dopamine hit to dopamine hit. That's basically it. The study also showed that suicide rates were lower in religious countries than in secular ones. That's also on a national scale as well. So it's important to look at these things because as the world gets more and more secular, I think more and more young people are waking up to this like, hey, our forefathers had it right. Religion was important. This is not just something where it's like, well, we're going to enter into this utopia as soon as we get rid of that evil religion that tells me I can't sin. As soon as we get rid of that, everybody's going to be more happier, more fulfilled, more logical, more scientific, and that's just not the case. We've gotten more and more evil as a society, less and less rational. It's just really we've gone downhill. I want to address one of the most secular countries in the world. We're going to look at Canada here in a second and kind of go through some of the ways that the increase in secular thought has affected them as a nation. So we're going to look at Canada, and I specifically want to focus on their MAID laws, which is their human euthanasia laws. If you're not rooted in Christ, you're not rooted in religion, your life has no intrinsic value, so you get laws like this. They just say it's no different than putting down a dog. So I previously stated that euthanasia was the fourth leading cause of death. It's actually the fifth, so I do want to correct that. It's the fifth leading cause of death in Canada. This is a direct fruit of an increasing secular society. Also, their abortion laws are barbaric. There is no limit on abortion. You can have abortion all the way up until just before birth, and the government pays for it in Canada. They will pay for you to kill your children. So not only will they kill you if you're a little depressed and you ask them to do so, they will also kill your children up until birth. These are the fruits of a. This is almost like a dystopian movie. You know what I mean? Like where you're in the future, everything's kind of like cyberpunk and disgusting, and people's lives don't really matter much. That's basically where they're going. It's like, well, what really is morality? Morality is all subjective. This is the fruit of that kind of thought. So if we do not return to our religious roots, if we do not return to our Christian roots as a people, which young people, wake up, start to think about these things. If we do not return to that, we are going to end up with hell on earth. Not only are they going to be helping you kill yourself, I really can't even think about anything worse than that. I mean, they might, who's to stay, there's like it's like a slippery slope, right? So you start off with, well, we put down dogs, when they're in pain. So why don't we put down a human, if they have a chronic illness? It's a slippery slope. Okay, great. So we've accepted that into law. Now they've taken it a step further. Well, what about depressed people? They're sad. They're going through pain. We should be able to put them down too if they want to be put down. Okay, so now you've taken it a step further to depressed people. Oh, well, but what about people that are, they're deformed? They're born deformed. Shouldn't we? They can't really, they can't really consent to it. But I think the compassionate thing to do would be to just kill them. So I mean, and then you take it a step further, and then you're basically a full-blown eugenics going on, which is insane. So the fruit of secular society is this kind of disgusting worldview in which life doesn't have any intrinsic value. You're more depressed. You're less likely to be married. You're less likely to have children. You're less likely to have a fulfilled and happy life. That's the fruits of an atheist worldview. There are other studies that have kind of shown this dynamic between happiness and religiosity. I'm going to cite from another, this will be the last citation for this video, but there was a massive research study called the Handbook of Religion and Health. It poured over 326 studies, so 326 articles of studies, and found that 80% of the studies analyzed showed that those who are religious say they are happier, and only 1% said that they were less happy. So think about that. 80% of them in all of these studies, the people who were more religious stated that they were more happy. Only 1% said they were less happy. The rest of them said they had mixed feelings. 80%, that is an overwhelming majority, which makes sense. If this is not all there is, and you are living for something greater than yourself, you are going to be happy. That's the only way that you find fulfillment, is if you are working towards something that is greater than yourself, right? And it's not as if I'm working for my salvation. That's not what I'm saying. Don't take me wrong. But I'm saying when you labor for God, out of a love for God, not out of a desire to receive something back from Him, you are going to be fulfilled. I think we have lost the understanding that the basis of all importance, the basis of all fulfillment in life is sacrifice. Working for something that is greater than yourself and not for your own material gain. That is why the center of Christianity is the cross. It is sacrifice. It is Christ's sacrifice. That is what we emulate. We are giving from ourselves to benefit others. We are giving from ourselves to benefit the needy. We are giving from ourselves to help even the atheists in their time of depression. Which, if any of you really are struggling, feel free to reach out, and I will take time and sit down and have a conversation with you. But yes, that's pretty much all I wanted to dive into today, was just to talk about, because there were a lot of people in the comments of the previous videos that were saying, or even in some of the shorts, that were saying that there's no significant difference between secular countries and more religious countries, and that there's no difference in the overall mental health of the atheist and the Christian. I wanted to show that that's false. Again, please don't come into the comments and say atheism isn't a worldview and repeat that over and over again. It's like your battle cry. I'm gonna go ahead and say this as a test. If you comment atheism isn't a worldview or atheism isn't a presupposition in the comments of this, I know you weren't watching the video. I'm going to test you on this. And if you say you did and this is what you commented, I'm going to know that you were a liar. So please don't comment that in the comments because I've already broken it down 500 times that atheism in and of itself isn't a worldview. We're talking about how your worldview is affected by your belief in atheism. So let's move on from that if we can. But I guarantee I'm going to have more and more comments like that in this video. So anybody that is actually suffering from depression, I would urge you to spend time with God in prayer. Reach out to a specialist if you need to. Talk to your pastor, Christians. If you are suffering from depression, talk to your pastor. If you don't have a pastor, feel free to reach out, and I will take time and talk to you. Or if you need to, go and see a specialist. Those kinds of things. There's nothing wrong with needing help. I have another video on how to fight depression. Feel free to look through my channel and watch that. It has some good tips. A lot of it has to do physical exercise and doing some other things that'll make your life more fulfilling. But I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.